Let's take a look at one last example that ties together everything we've learned in this chapter. A researcher conducts a double-blind experiment that tests whether a new herbal formula is effective in preventing colds. During the 3-month period, 100 randomly selected people take the herbal formula, while the other 100 randomly selected people take a placebo. The results show that 30 people taking the herbal remedy get colds compared to 32 people taking the placebo. Right, so the list of things you're going to work on, you're going to discuss the 3 principles of experimental design. You're going to explain what double blind means in context of this problem. See if you can identify what type of experiment this is. Is it a basic randomized comparative? Is it a block design or a matched pairs? And then diagram the experiment. For statistical inference, we want to answer, can we generalize our results to the entire population? And are we eligible for cause and effect? So if the results are statistically significant, did we design this correctly so that we can get cause and effect? Then I want you to look at those results. So what are the results? And can we conclude that the herbal formula is effective in preventing colds? So in other words, is the difference between these two groups statistically significant? Okay, once you've done that, I have a bonus question for you to think about. If the results are not statistically significant, does that mean that we've proven for a fact that the herbal remedy doesn't work at all? All right, so that's a long list of things to work on. Give it your best shot. Go ahead and pause the video and we'll come back and go through them together in just a minute. Okay, let's go through these. And if you have any gaps, you can fill them in as we go along. So our 3 principles of experimental design are randomize, control, and replicate. So for randomize, we don't really know exactly where they got these people. So I would say no to the random sample, but they did randomly assign people to treatment groups. So that's a good thing. For control, the problem states that it's double blind with a placebo. So that placebo is going to be our control group. And then replicate. So our sample size is n equals 200. So that's the number of people we have. And that's a pretty good sample size. I also think that this research can be easily replicated. There's nothing tricky here or expensive or technical knowledge. So I think this would be easy to replicate. So that one is covered there. Double blind in context of this problem. So that would mean that neither the researchers nor the participants know who got the herbal remedy or who got the placebo. For the type of experiment, this is going to be our basic randomized comparative. And so we'll start with those 200 people, and then we're going to randomly assign them into 2 groups of 100, and one group will get the placebo, and one group gets the herbal remedy. And then our response variable here is going to be the proportion of people who get colds. So proportions are going to be categorical variables. All right, so statistical inference. Can we generalize our results to the population? The answer to that is no, and that's because we don't know if we have a random sample here. So without a random sample, we can't generalize our results to the population. And then cause and effect. So we do have cause and effect here as long as our results are statistically significant, and that's because we randomly assigned our subjects to treatment groups. All right, so let's take a look at these results. We had 30 out of 100 versus 32 out of 100 getting sick. And so I don't think that that's a really big difference. So I would say it's unlikely or no that we have statistically significant results. And that's basically because I've just seen a 2% difference here, and that could be just natural variation between these groups rather than the herbal remedy actually working. So no on the statistical significance. And then our conclusion, our bonus question here. So can we prove that the herbal remedy doesn't work? The answer to that is not with how we've set this up. So what we're testing is, does it work? And our answer here, our choices would be, yes, it does appear to be working, or we don't see any difference between these two groups or not a big enough difference. So those are the only options that can come out of these experiments. And that's something we're going to spend a lot of time looking at in the last unit. So in chapter 17, we'll look at hypothesis test. We'll look at what conclusions you can get out of doing an experiment. All right, so hopefully that gave you a good kind of sense of wrapping up all the ideas that we've covered so far in chapter 9.